Okay, so we are live. All right, so we have all green lights. I want to say ETM Hotep to all those who will be tuned in and hanging out with us, the Sesh Medew Netcher, and welcome to Freestyle Fridays, where we choose an inscription or have one chosen for us. We take recommendations, suggestions in our Facebook group, Sesh Medew Netcher Facebook group, and then we will use it as the inscription for our Freestyle Fridays. And for those who are not familiar with our Freestyle Fridays, we were doing it for about a year and a half or so, and we've taken a break from it. So now we've started back up. Last week was our first time in our restart. And so what the Freestyle Friday is that we take an inscription and we go through and transliterate and translate it as best as we can without the use of any help, any source resources such as the sign list or any dictionaries. And so this is something that we exercise that we've done for quite a while, and it provides a way for us to evaluate our own proficiency and competency in the language. So we use it as a fun exercise, and we have fun with it, and we encourage crowd participation. So for those of you who are tuned in the chat, we monitor the chat, and sometimes we'll open up the panel, send out the link for the panel, so you may be able to come in and actually participate that way. And we may do that tonight as well. So that's what our Freestyle Friday is about. And so we can jump straight into it. Let's see here. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. This is a brother Wujau, and I also have on the panel some others on the panel, and I believe you can unmute yourself. Actually, it's just Emiket and myself, but Emiket, you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
All right. Okay. Dua. So my name is Emiket, and yes, looking forward to the freestyle.
All right. So let's just jump straight into it. But before we jump straight into it, we made a custom during any of our presentations as a group, we would recite the offering formula, and that's a very common formula that you'll find all throughout Kemet. It's one of those prolific type of things that you see everywhere on stele, coffin, inscriptions, and pretty much everywhere. And we've doing this as an inspiration from Dr. Riketi Amin, who also starts off her sessions and different things that she does. She'll start with the offering formula. So this was inspired by what she's done, and so we've adopted it, and we will begin our sessions with the offering formula. So let me pull that up, and then we can recite it. And if Sonat Imiket, if you don't mind, if you can go over the offering formula or recite it.
All right. Okay. So what you have on your screen is the offering formula, and on the top part you have the sesh or the hieroglyphs for the offering formula. In the middle we have the transliteration, and at the bottom we have the translation. And what I'm going to be reading will be the transliteration. And just to note, the pronunciation is tentative. It is we don't claim that is historically accurate. But one thing I would like to advise is while I'm reading or reciting it, then if you're watching, then you could recite it along with me. Hotep Dinesu, Weser Neb Jedu, Necha Neb Abju, TF Peret Heru T Henket Ka Apet Sesh Menket, Het Nebet Neferet Wabet Anket Nechaim, Inkani Imaku Aku Maakiru. And what that says is an offering the king gives Osiris, Lord of Jedu, great God, Lord of Abydos, so that he may give verbal offerings in beer, bread, ox, fowl, alabaster, linen, everything good and pure on which a God lives, for the car of the revered ones, the ancestors justified.
Okay, Iker. All right, excellent. So that is our customary beginning of our sessions, and we actually have a video in the archives on our YouTube channel where we actually go over the offering formula and the different elements of the offering formula. So in that video, you'll learn that there are many offering formulas that will they're not all the exact same, but they have the main elements are found in all of them. But they're some of them are longer than the one that you see here, and some of them are even shorter, even though this one is pretty short. There's some even shorter than this. And we encourage people to memorize at least one of them. Pick one that you find and memorize it. And we suggest this one here because this one is not too long, not too short, and it has a cadence to it for easy memorization. So if you notice, like the first line, it will have a certain rhyme or cadence to it. Hotep di nasu, waser neb jedu, Netcher a neb abju. So you see how that oo sound will kind of give you a certain cadence and rhyme or rhythm to it. And also even the last line, in kani imaku aku makeru. So, and that makes it just kind of easier to learn it and to commit it to memory. And then that way you can also recite it, and you won't have to look at the glyphs or the transliteration, etc. All right. And so these offering formulas, now what you can do is if you choose to, to incorporate this in your, some kind of your practices, you can swap out the word aku in the last line. You'll see where it says in ka ni imaku aku makeru. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth word for the word aku, you can swap that out for a someone in your ancestry, someone who has passed away, and things like that. You can name someone. You can say their name of a single person or multiple people. All right. So that word aku, it means ancestors, but you can, like I said, you can replace that. All right. So by all means, you can incorporate that. All right, so that begins with our offering formula. So now we can kind of go right into our actual freestyle. So I want to say ETM Hotep again for those who are just tuning in and who will be watching the archive. So welcome, and I appreciate, or we appreciate Dua for taking time out to hang out. All right, so hopefully you will learn something or share your knowledge or participate. So we'll be looking at the chat and see if there's any participation in. All right, so I see we have a few viewers. So for this Friday freestyle, let me pull up the inscription. Well, first, before we actually go through the actual freestyle, I want to explain what it is that we do. Whether we're freestyling or not, anyone who translates ancient Rani Kemet or Sesh Medew Netcher will follow 4 steps, and I'll get to those in a second. But first, I want to explain what transliteration is an orthographic script endeavor. Hopefully you can see my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Two.
All right. Transliteration is an orthographic script endeavor by the conversion of a text from a source script to a target script. When we transliterate the hieroglyphs, we're simply transferring the glyphs, which is the source, over into the English or Latin orthography, which would be the target script. This transfer is not a transference of phonetics, which is how something is pronounced, or semantics, which is what something means, but rather a convention in orthography. Thus, the issues of pronunciations and meaning are not addressed in transliterations. All right. So, so basically, you're going from script to script, and transliteration. The word trans means to move, movements. All right. So you're moving from a source script over into a target script. That would be the what you're actually doing. So on the screen, we see some examples. We have the Chinese script and the hieroglyphic. So the Chinese script, you can see those two characters there, and they're transliterated into the Latin script with those characters that you see on the screen. Let me make sure I can get my cursor here. I point it out. So we have the P-I-N for this first character and the Y-I-N. So pinion. So these two characters spell out the phrase pinion. And this is how we would represent it in a Latin script. And now, mind you, Latin script, this is the same script that we use to write English. All right. And so here's an example with the hieroglyphic. We have 3 glyphs here. And these 3 glyphs would transliterate as R-A, and then the second one is M-S, and the third is S-W. So together that would be Ra Mesu. All right. So that is what transliteration is about. Now, what is translation? Translation is the communication of meaning, and that's in bold because that's important. Translations have to do with meaning. And so it's the communication of the meaning of a source language text by means of an equivalent target language text. So translation depends on knowledge of the language. So in order to translate something, first you have to have 2 languages that you're working with. And you have to be knowledgeable about both of them, because you're transferring the meaning from the source language over into an equivalent meaning in the target language. And equivalent is used loosely because rarely will you find a 100% one-for-one match in translations from language to language around the world. All right, so equivalency is your goal. And so translators understand this, and they do their best to come up with the same semantic meaning of the source language. So here's an example using a hieroglyphic again. So we have those 3 same glyphs, and they transliterate in the Latin script as R-A-M-S-S-W, and then the meaning is brought over for the translation, which is Ra Bor Him. And then the translation, taking under consideration the English grammar and how it should make sense in English, it would be, it is Ra who gave birth to him. All right. So a literal translation would be Ra bore him. And we don't talk like that in English. So in the process of translations, you have to be mindful of the rules, the grammar rules, and the environment of the target language that you're translating into. Okay, so that brings us up to our steps. So whether we're freestyling like tonight, Freestyle Friday, or we're doing serious translations, we will have to follow these 4 steps. So the 4 steps are: step 1, you determine the direction in which the signs are to be read. Step 2, you identify and document each individual sign. Step 3, you group the signs into words to be searched in dictionaries. And then 4, you come up with a sensible translation. Okay, so that's like a bullet form of those 4 steps. And we go over these 4 steps each and every time we have these shows. So you can look in the archives and see, how consistently these steps are followed and what they all entail. And so you'll be able to see that tonight. Now, we do have a video where we actually go through these steps in full detail, where we actually go through the steps and actually show going through the sign list for step 2 and actually show going through the dictionary for step 3. However, on Freestyle Friday, we're not going to be doing that. All right. So now that we've said all of that, now we're going to get into our freestyle image for tonight. Now I have two of them. This particular one was sent and recommended to us, and so we'll go over a few of the columns, or maybe the whole thing, and then I have a second one that we can kind of touch on, so that way we'll have two of them. So here is the picture, and let me know if you all can see it. Can you see it on the screen?
Two.
All right. Is it clear enough and big enough?
Yeah, it look good.
Okay. All right. So let's go through the four steps. So with the four steps, of course, we're not going to go in detail, but let's demonstrate at least the four steps. So the first step is to identify the direction in which the glyphs are to be read. So maybe anyone on the panel can, and I'll use my cursor and follow you. But let's do step one and determine the direction.
All right, which column you on?
You can let me know whichever. Let me get
All
my
right, let's go
cursor
to the
on.
one to his back.
Okay, right here.
Yep,
All right.
right under the lotus.
All right.
Okay, so we had a rabbit or the hare. It's facing left, and you had the snake right under that. That's facing left as well. Then the second line behind them, I would look at the birds, or I look at that bird and it's facing left. And the ones on the bottom, they facing left as well. So that's just gonna let me know. I gotta read vertical, left to right.
Okay. Now, how about these over here?
All right, so let's see. You want to start under that plant there?
The plant. Oh, over here.
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
So if we looking at that, we would look at the I think that's like a rib cage, some type of animal part. And I don't know what that is underneath that raised bread loaf, but that's facing in that direction. So then if we go back, we see the sedge plant and the bee, and that's facing to the right. Let's see. You go down under the chenille, you have the duck, and that's facing right. And then the quail chick inside the chenille on the bottom, that's facing right. So I know I need to read this vertical, right to left.
Okay. Excellent. So a question now, with step one, it's fairly simple, and but there are a few people that may be confused, especially when they first come in, start off learning it. And I've seen a couple of people that will make statements about the direction. So the question is, and I'll just ask you the question, can you read these glyphs any way you want to?
No, I wouldn't say that. Basically, like I would read into the glyphs. So if I'm looking at the glyph, I would read into it, and I would see the consistencies versus the right side of the screen or the left side of the screen. I would look at that, and I would come up with it. If I'm just a novice, I would look at each side of the screen. Then I would be like, okay, so this must be read. It's either got to be read. There's 4 ways you can do it. So it's got to be read either those 4 ways. So like Chinese people, they write from top to bottom. So it's like, if you want to be like knowledgeable about it, like, or just common sense, you just at least know you reading top to bottom or left to right. So once you establish top to bottom, left to right, then I would start looking for common patterns. Like, okay, this thing's facing this way, this thing's facing that way. So that's just going to let me know how I'm going to go about it after that. So.
Okay. So for example, what you first pointed out over here, if you can see my cursor, we have the hare, rabbit, and the horn viper. You said it's facing to the left. And so you said you would read this from left to right. So
correct. But that first line, you can't tell that. You just be going from the hare to the water ripple to the horn viper into the water jugs down there. Now the second line, let's see. Well, I don't think you could tell in the second line either.
You not be able to tell what?
Okay. If you could read from right to left, because I know the first column you just read straight down. The second column you have the lung, the water ripples, the basket, the two land symbols. So what I'm saying is you can't determine right to left if you're just reading straight down. But then you have the right under the land symbols, you can distinguish it right there. And then with the quail chick.
Okay. So I understand what you're saying. So
Yeah. I'm just speaking like if I'm a novice.
oh no, I'm not asking if you're a novice. I'm asking period. So we can make sure that we clarify this for anyone who will be watching our videos. Because the reason why I asked the question is because we have people that are sharing information and teaching, attempting to teach. And I've seen people that will tell people that you can read these in any direction. Like this column here, you can read it from right to left. You can read it from left to right as well.
No.
All right. So, but yes, but to kind of add to what you were saying, because these glyphs are in a column, that they're not side by side. So these glyphs are stacked on top of each other. So there's no sideways movement for this particular reading where my cursor is. So, but regardless of whether they're glyphs side by side, you would always read this from left to right. And the reason why is because the glyphs are facing to the left. And in the second column, same thing applies, but you do have glyphs that are side by side. And the direction is determined based on the way that the glyphs are facing. You always read into them. So whether they're stacked or not, there is a direction to them. Now I do want to add, because I've got this question quite a few times. There are some glyphs that are non-directional. So in other words, let's say for example, this trachea and lung glyph. This has no direction to it because it's basically straight on. The water ripple has no direction to it because these are just squiggly up and down movements to form lines. The tar glyph that you see here or a strip of land, there's no direction to it. The heart glyph that you see here, there's no direction. The raised bread loaf, there's no direction. So there are glyphs that have no direction. So the question becomes, well, what if, how can we tell which direction then? And the answer is simple. You're not going to find any inscription where there's only non-directional glyphs. Okay, so in other words, you won't find any inscription where all you will see are non-directional glyphs. So every inscription that you see is going to have some glyphs that are directional, that have a direction to them. Okay, so just remember that, and then you'll be safe. Okay, so that was all of step one. So in total, we have two different directions that these glyphs are representing. Okay, so some of them we're going to read from left to right, and the others we're going to read from right to left. And we notice when the change happens because the glyphs face a different direction. So that brings us to step two. So step two is to identify the glyphs. And so we want to skip the monoliterals, which are glyphs that represent single consonants, because by the time you sit down and attempt to translate anything, there are certain things that you should have learned. And prior to learning it, you really have no business in trying to translate. So at this point in time, anyone who attempts to translate, you should have memorized the monoliterals. Those are the 24 individual glyphs that represent single consonantal sounds. And those are to be memorized. And if you take any course or you have any book that teaches you about the writing system, early on in these books, you'll find that you're suggested or encouraged to memorize the monoliterals, commit them in memory. So For step 2, we're going to skip the monoliterals and kind of just identify some other glyphs. So I'll follow with my cursor. So anyone on the panel, you can direct me and just identify. Maybe we'll identify 6 glyphs, and then we'll move on to the next step. So any 6 glyphs besides the monoliterals.
Okay. On the column that you are working on, the one behind the man, we have the hair.
Okay.
Which is a biliteral. And then on the next column we have a windpipe.
Biliteral. What does that mean?
Biliteral is it has 2 consonants.
Okay, and what 2 consonants does this hair represent?
And that would be when, which would be the WN.
Okay.
And then on the next column we have the windpipe, which is triliteral, and which is has 3 consonants, and that would be sema.
What are the 3 consonants?
SMA.
All right. Okay.
And then we have a milk jug at the bottom, and that would be a biliteral, and that would be the 2 consonants, which would be MI.
Okay.
And then on the next column we have the hat, which is also a biliteral, and that would be IB or IB.
All right. Okay, so that's enough. Maybe one more from this side.
On that side, on the cartouche or on the chenou, we have on the bottom chenou, we have the gameboard, which would be a biliteral for men, which would be MN.
Okay, and let me see if I could point that out. You said in the chenou here?
2.
All right. Okay, so I think that's enough to demonstrate step 2. So the things in step 2, what you're identifying is that you have to be able to recognize the glyph and to be able to know the possible ways in which it can function. So you're going to have to know how these particular glyphs are transliterated. And so that's why I was asking, what would those consonants be? And so we have, as Senator Emike gave, for example, the hair rabbit is transliterated with 2 consonants, W and an N. And you have to know that about all of these different glyphs. So step 2, you have to identify every single glyph in here. Now at first that may seem like something that's very meticulous or daunting to do, but the more you do this, you'll become a lot faster, and it doesn't sound like it take a long time. Doesn't take as long as it sounds, as it would. As again, the monoliterals you will already have memorized, and then the biliterals you will start to memorize those the more you see them. All right. So that will be step 2, and so that brings us to step 3. Step 3 is the step that you take the individual glyphs and you group them together into the words that they are a part of. And the reason why this is necessary for Sesh Medew Netcher is because there are no spaces, there's no punctuation in the writing system. So the words are bunched right next to each other. You know, if this was English, there would be no spaces. All right. So we have to what's called parse. We would have to parse the glyphs into the words that they form. And again, to a beginner, that may seem difficult, but through time, it will become easier and easier, because you'll start to recognize patterns and you'll start to recognize the whole words as opposed to individual glyphs. All right. So with step 3, let's just identify a few words. Maybe we can identify 3 words for step 3. So anyone, and I'll just direct my cursor and I'll point to it. So identify the number of glyphs in the word and what those glyphs are, and then the word.
All right. Let's see. All right. If we go under that little on the left side under the plant.
Okay.
All right. So I believe the mace, the bread loaf, and a little circle down there. I can't tell which one that is, but I think that'll most likely be one word. I know the mace. I think hedget, or that's the white crown. I don't know. I think so, but yeah, that's one word right there. Hedge,
Okay.
hedges, something like that. And then you have another word underneath that. I know it's the backbone. I feel like Kofi right now. I don't want to pronounce it. But
Okay.
that's a word right there. I know it means like to be happy or something like that.
Well, which glyphs make the word? You say that's a word, but
Oh,
which
okay. The
which glyphs?
backbone and the raised bread loaf.
Okay, so these two
And I,
glyphs make
yeah.
up a word. Okay. All right.
And let's see. If we go in the second line, you have the sedge plant, the raised bread loaf, the bee, and the raised bread loaf. That's a word right there.
Well, all four of them
Yeah, all four of them.
is one word.
Well, it's two words, but it's like one saying.
Okay, yeah. So we're only dealing with words. So
Okay.
just so
Yeah,
we
so
don't
you got the
confuse anyone.
sedge plant and the raised bread loaf. That's one word.
Okay.
And then the bee and the raised bread loaf. That's one word.
Okay. All right.
And then
Let's do one more.
okay, let's go. Under the canoe, you have the pintail duck and the sun symbol. That's one word right there.
Okay, so both of these are one word.
Again, I did it again.
Yeah. No, but hold up.
It's one
But
saying, but it's two.
yeah, I want to point that out because
Right.
but
Pintail duck is one word, and then the sun is one word as well.
okay, but see, you just demonstrated what what comes naturally as the more and more you do this
Right.
because because you are you're seeing this as one, even though it's two words, you're seeing it as one phrase because you see it so much. And so that's a perfect demonstration of what I said earlier. The more and more that you do this, the more and more that you'll start recognizing patterns. You'll start recognizing whole words, not only whole words, but you'll start recognizing whole phrases and sometimes whole sentences just at first glance. And so you just demonstrated that twice.
Occur.
So because I had to stop you and say, wait a minute, one word. You like, yeah, like you like, oh wait a minute, no, it's not one word. Okay, but yeah, so that's how easy it becomes. Okay, so let's do one more word. One more word. Let's find another word. Over here. What's another word?
All right, I'm doing right this time. I'm gonna go to the right. Well, no, I'm gonna just do this one word right here. Right under that basket, you have the two land symbols. That's Tawi.
Okay, and there we go, right there. All right. So now just to clarify, both of those glyphs are part of that one word. So just so people will know.
Yep.
All right. So all right. Now that's step three. So step three is basically a parsing step where you group the glyphs uh, into the words that they form. And like I said, English we're fortunate because we have spaces, so it's done for us in the writing system of English already. It's already done for us. But if it weren't there, if we didn't have spaces, we would still be able to read it, and we demonstrate that in our book. Has the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered? A rebuttal to Walter Williams. In that book, we demonstrate all of these different points, because we thoroughly explain how the writing system works. So everything we're explaining now, you can find in that book. And so we demonstrate where we have a sentence where there's no spaces and you can still read it. And we explain why. Okay, so now step 4. Now, because we didn't identify every single glyph and because we didn't identify every single word, moving to step 4 is kind of difficult with our freestyle, because step 4 is to come up with a translation, and because we didn't go over all of the words, then it's kind of hard to translate this entire thing until we do that. But for time's sake, we'll step 4, we'll just combine step 3 and 4 together. So we can start on either side and kind of come away with a sensible translation of what this is saying. Like, what is this saying? So if anybody wants to kick it off or start off, either the left or the right or the middle, wherever, you could direct me, and then we can kind of start and give a sensible translation. But hold up, but before we do that, let me I did say we were going to pay attention to the chat, and I'm not sure if anybody's been given some answers and things. So let me take a minute and look. I do want to say again, ETM Hotep, for those who have just joined in. By the way, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and also click the bell so you'll be alert or notified when we go live. We have our regular schedule, which will be Fridays and Wednesdays for Freestyle Friday and Divine Words Wednesdays. But you never know, we'll just pop up out the blue and go live. So you want to be notified. We'll be happy to have you, tuned in and join us. So I just want to see if there are, and so that's good. So I see people, we have Sonette, Lisa, Son David, and participating. And let's see. Okay, the numbers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, these columns are not numbered. I didn't prepare this picture beforehand. Like I said, this picture was sent today, and I didn't number the columns or anything to make it easier. So I have the cursor. So hopefully me having the cursor and pointing things out is less confusing. Okay, so we can continue. I don't see any questions, but I think everyone's following along and doing a good job. All right, so let me get my cursor back up. So okay, so yeah, so now we're back to let's do some translation of what we're looking at. So if anybody wants to kick any part of this off, the floor is open.
Yeah, I could start with let's see where we finished off. I think well, yeah, we could just start. Let's take the first one behind the man, the first column.
All right.
So we'll have when F Kenty.
Okay.
I think that would be his existence, and Kenty will be normally translated as foremost. And then going to the next column, I'm not sure if there probably was some glyphs up there missing.
There definitely were you can see where things are cut off.
It won't flow so well. So then we have Sema. Then we have Enek, Tawi, me, and then we have Wedge. I'm not sure if it would be Wedge Chen Ba or Wedget and Ba.
Okay.
And then the next one will be Awud Ib Neb. And Sama will be unification, and Nek will be belong or belonging to me. And then we have Tawi, the two lands, and then me, which would be like. And then you have Wedge, which would be sort of like a command. And then I think Chen will probably be demonstrative for like this. And then you have Pau,
okay,
which would be souls. And then Awud Abe would be to be happy or pleasant, which literally mean to stretch the heart. And then Neb, which would be, since it's appearing at the bottom, probably will be the adjective for or.
Okay. Oops. So all right. So now, what would be a more fluid translation? That was a very good, excellent breakdown. But what would be more, if you could repeat all of what you were saying?
Okay, so on the first column, you would have ONF, Kenti, which would be his existence and then foremost. And then unification. Unification, then belonging to me. And then the two lands, like this command, the souls. And then on the next column, you have all pleasant.
Okay. I'm not even sure who else is on the panel. Let me take a look. Oh, it's just us three. All right. So it's Satep. Satep, I didn't introduce you, but we have son Satep and Emicat and myself. All right. So anything else on the other side, or anything different for the right side? Nope. Okay. So now inside the Shanu, we have the king's name. So the middle figure that you see here is identified as Menchu Hotep. So within the Shinu, we have the name. So we have Menchu, and then we have Hotep, which means Menchu is content or satisfied. And then afterwards, we have, it's broken off, but we can make out what it is. And see, this is the benefit of becoming more and more familiar with the glyphs and more familiar with words and phrases and even sentences, because a lot of things are duplicated and repeated. Same thing that we have in English. You know, if somebody were to type out a letter to you, and then a part of that letter was ripped off, like let's say a little bit of the right side of a letter is ripped, you can still make out what the words should be there based on the context and based on your familiarity with English and what words are normally used with what other words, etc. So this is no different here. So this top part is an Ankh. We have a cobra, raised bread loaf, and a flat strip of land. And that means Ankh Jet. May he be alive forever, or live forever, or live eternally. Okay, so that's what that would represent. Even though it's broken off, we can pretty much make that out. All right. In this, we have a Sarek, which is a palace facade. And this is one of the oldest forms of the 5 names of kings. And we have Samatawi within the Sarek. Okay, that's what we can see. And above here, normally perched on top of a Sarek would be a falcon, because this represents the Heru name. So most likely there was a falcon here perched on top of this Sarek, this rectangle shaped Sarek. And then we have Samatawi. And likewise above here, we would normally have a vulture and a cobra here for one of the other names. Remember, a king had 5 names. All right, so that's what those will be usually indicate. So I just want to point that out here. And then over on the left hand side, we have we can see a strip of land right here, and then we can see a very small portion of another strip of land. So most likely we can infer based on the plethora of evidence, based on how the king's names were written in their titularies, that this most likely said Neb Tawi and then Nisud Biti.
Would you be getting the neb from the basket down there on the left or the left hand side, but right up under the plant?
You mean over here?
Yeah, right over there at the very bottom. Is that neb basket connected to the top where you was reading at?
No. This Neb basket would be
No,
different.
no, not that one. Not that one. At the
Oh,
very bottom of the screen.
this one.
That column, yeah.
Okay, no. Nope.
Man, I wonder where the rest of this picture at.
Yeah, I believe whatever this artifact is from, I believe the other portion may be lost. It may not exist. But it would be interesting to see if we can find the other portion of this, because obviously this is part of a block that together, it was somewhere where it was together and it formed a whole inscription. So it'd be interesting to find it. Yeah, so we have the Tawi here. And we know that there's some more glyphs up here. But in order to make that determination, though, so let me back up, slow down. We would start to read it here and then go over, and we would see if that would apply. I simply started from up here because I was identifying the king himself as Mentuhotep, and then we have the throne name, which is Nisud Biti, and then we have the other name in the Shinu. And then we also have the family name in the Shinu. And this one and this one are a match. Even though it's damaged down here, we can still see the Hotep glyph, and we can see a portion of it down here. So it's safe to assume that the other two glyphs that we see here were down here. So we have Sarah, and then we have his family name. Okay. The actual throne name would be Neb Hetep Ra. And then, so this would be Neb Hetep Ra, and then Sarah Menchu Hotep. And that would be whatever in this column. So anything else? I don't want to do the whole left side, but anything else we can identify? Or how about anybody in the chat? Anybody in the chat chiming in? Anything in the chat? Nope. Let me see. Let me check. Let's see. What is that glyph? Okay, let's just. I'll make sure we're not missing anything in the chat. We have even reading down, you still determine which direction the glyphs are facing. Yes, definitely. Let's see here. We're not supposed to be looking during freestyle. Exactly. Can't cheat. Okay, Sonet Lisa, what is the glyph under the horned viper in the first column that she read? Okay, I believe she is talking about this glyph here. Emiket, do you want to answer that one?
What glyph is that?
Can you see my screen? I'm circling it. The one under the horn viper.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those would be the water jugs. The 4 water jugs, and there would be the Khenti.
Okay. All right. Dua. All right. So let's see. Anybody else? Okay. No. So all right. So let's continue. So what else do we see? What else can we make out? So we have these columns here, and then this column. So what about over here? Now there's some damage here. Now the thing about this, now a lot of these artifacts are going to be damaged. We're talking about thousands of years old artifacts, and actually some of them are in very, very good shape for their age, extremely good shape. But occasionally we will find damage beyond, our recognition. So we can see some damage due to weathering, due to just aging, but then there's some deliberate damage that was done even in ancient times. As you can see, this figure here was actually chiseled out, and we won't know who or what figure this was definitively, but we can only make some guesses based on the headdress, who this possibly was. All right. But we have damage here, piece missing. We have damage up here, so we have to do the best that we can. And so based on that, we can pretty much kind of try to get what we can out of this first, the first column. So we have let's see, we have fathers, and I'm getting notifications here. So we see we have a plural word here, and then we have it, which will be for fathers or ancestors or progenitors, and we have the plural. We have the seated person here holding the flail, and then we have a bread scale, not a bread loaf, but a basket with a handle, which would be your forefathers. A basket, water ripple, and then we have the column, the arm, and then we have damage there. So does anybody make that out?
So would that be my Karu?
No, this is the column, not the oar, the boat oar. That would be for the word cheru. This would be the word for like great.
Okay, great. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So this would be great. So when we have it, the word it by itself is the word for father. But when it's pluralized like this, as we see here, it's more so your progenitors, your ancestry. And so we have a pronoun, second person masculine pronoun for your ancestors or your ancestry. The basket being neb, which would be all of your ancestors. And then and then we have the word great. So, but that's all we could pretty much make out because of the damage. And then obviously there's more text above here. All right. So that's pretty much the best that one can do. And then here, I think, Satep, did you do this part here already? Hedge. Now this particular
What'd you say?
this one right here, I think you mentioned hedge. Let me see if I could zoom in and we can get a better look at this glyph here. So hopefully that's easier to see now.
Yeah. I can see it now. I see it got the two little slants in it.
All right, let's make sure that's coming up on the screen. Good. All right. And let me mute my notifications here. So yeah, that's correct about hedge. The word hedge there. So, but now that circle with the two kind of slanted lines in it, that's for an actual place, a location. And
yeah, see, that's what I was confused on because I couldn't see if it was a cross in there or a head. I just couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure out what that was. I was like, okay, is it Ra? I just couldn't because I didn't see the little two slants in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it looked like the 049 for this city. And
yeah, that's what I thought it was. It had an X in it.
Right. I was like, what place is hedge or hedge?
Okay, right. All right. So now this is where, like we were demonstrating before, because Son Setep saw the quail. I'm sorry, not the quail chick, the pintail duck, and the sun glyph that you see over here, the sun disk. He identified it as one word. His mind reached out, to identify as one word because of the familiarity with it. So the more familiar you become with these words, then it'll become a lot easier. So this right here, together, are two words: Hejet Nechen, which is a location, and you'll find that Nechen is in the south on our maps, but it would be considered Upper Kemet, and that would be where the white crown is emblematic of Upper Kemet, and then the red crown would be emblematic of Lower Kemet. So we have Hejet Nechen, which would be the white one of the city of Nechen. So Hejet would be the white one of the city of Nechen. Hejet Nechen. And then we have, I think you also said that this is the word Awut, and then A, Neb. Awut, A, Neb. And Awut, this particular word is the same word. Let me go over here and scroll up. It's the same word as what we have over here. So, Son of Imiket, what did this indicate? All of these glyphs here indicate.
That would be like saying Awut Ibneb would be like all pleasant or all happy.
Okay, so all happy, all pleasant, or all joy.
All joy, yeah.
All right. So this particular glyph is the word Awut. That means what?
That would be to stretch.
Okay. Okay, exactly. So we see the same thing happening right here, but instead of Awut Ib, we have Awut A. Instead of Awut Ib Neb, we have Awut A Neb. So what does this mean?
That would probably be stretched arms.
Okay, exactly. All right. So there you have it. So outstretched or stretched, outstretched arm. So all outstretched arms. And there's more text to this. So some of this may not make full sense because we're it's like stopping someone mid sentence, and that's what we're looking at. We're looking at an inscription that's been cut off. So we're just basically using it to kind of transliterate and translate what we can and what we can see. All right, so let's move over to this little section right here. So what is this? What is this saying here? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 glyphs that we could see. So we see the Senet game board glyph. We have the reed leaf here that's damaged, and then everything else is damaged here. But we have the star, the lasso, the hand, and the banner. So what are we looking at here?
I say Dua Netcher.
Okay. All right. And so which one is Netcher and which one's Dua? Or kind of break it down so we can.
The flagpole at the top, that would be Netcher.
All right.
You have the handout, that's a D. And then the I don't know what that symbol is. I forgot what that is, but that's a
lasso.
What is it?
Lasso.
A lasso. That would be the W. And then you have the star right there. I would say that was playing as a determinative.
Okay. All right.
Let me see this.
All right.
Transposition going on.
Honorific transposition. Okay, since you mentioned it, you gotta explain it. What is it?
Let me put my burrito down.
Yeah. Since you mentioned it, you gotta explain it.
All right, so being familiar with the glyphs, if you say Medew Netcher, That's what we always say, Medew Netcher. So it's honorific transposition in that as well. So basically, you give an honor to the I would say like you give an honor to the divine. I don't know. I don't know how to put it, but I just know you give an honor to that glyph right there because it's speaking of divinity and all that. So they're basically saying praise the netter. So
Okay.
even in Medew Netcher, you saying sacred words, or you just give an honor to that glyph right there, and it's a couple glyphs that you just recognize and do that with. But you could probably go in a little deeper than I can.
Well, no, not well. The general idea behind honorific transposition is, see, it's always good to learn in terms of rules, like rules. And so the general rule for honorific transposition is that the word for deity, which will be the word Netcher, and the deity's names themselves, and also the word for king, those three things are usually written in honorific transposition, which means that the name or the word will be written first, even though it's pronounced second or afterwards. And so it's transposed to the front of a phrase. So this word is actually dua Netcher, but Netcher is written in front. Like how Son Setep said, Medew Netcher. If this was Medew Netcher, the Netcher banner would be first, and then we would see the staff second. It would be right beside it, second, Medew Netcher, even though we're looking at it saying Netcher Medew. All right. So this one is the same thing. So we have Dua Netcher, which will be praise to Netcher, and then we have what would most likely have been Amen, because we had the reed leaf and the Senate game board glyph, and this was likely a water ripple under it. So all praise or praises to the Netcher, Amen. All right, so that's the likelihood of what that was or would have been there. But again, that would be just based on what we see, and there's things that are missing. Okay, so we went over Mentuhotep, the name, the palace facade. Now look at this. This is thousands of years old, and you still see the colors here. That's amazing. You see the green, the reds, even in the flowers here, the plants here. Same thing.
You want to know what I noticed too? When we was talking about Hedjet, I should have been able to figure that out because that circle ain't the same color as the circle on the side. And the next line over.
Right, over here. Mm-hmm.
So that I noticed that earlier too. I should have peeped that.
Yeah. And fortunately on some of these we can do that. A lot of them we can't because the colors have faded or gone off. But on the ones that still retain their colors, then yeah, you can actually make out differences with that as well. Okay, so I don't think there's anything else over here. Back over here, we have Winninef Kenti, which is he exists in the foremost or the forefront, and Senator Emicat already went over this. Now this top portion, Sama in Ek. It's like D-N-E in Ek. So it's Sama in E in Ek. There is an omitted glyph here, and this is it's omitted because this portion here is so redundant in the inscriptions. You'll find a lot of inscriptions that will have, like the example I just gave, D-N-E in Ek, which means I have given to you. And the E, the pronoun, is omitted. And likewise here. So there would be a pronoun here. So we would have it as Sama in E in Ek, which says Sama in E, which means I have united in Ek for you. Tawi, the two lands, like. And in this word me, like, normally we would have me ra, like ra, and we would use it as like. But in this sense, it would be I have united the two lands for you. I have united for you the two lands like. And then we have the word for command. And this like is not the same like as in to be like. This is more like a word for as. And then we have the command, them, and then the powers or the souls, which is the ba'u. And
okay, that makes more sense.
Right. And then we have obviously maybe some missing text that says something else, but then we end up over here, as you said, awud ibneb, which would be all joy. All right. Okay, so let me zoom back out and let me visit the chat again. I don't want to lose anybody or anything. If there are any questions, what we were going over, and if you could just follow along and just do what we're doing. Like I said, this is Freestyle Friday, and so these are the things that you can do on your own. If you're learning the language or if you're taking up a study of the language, incorporate this into your routine. You know, periodically pick text and freestyle on it. But don't leave it there. Like once you get as far as you can go, then look up everything. You know, look up, check behind yourself and then finish it out. And you'll find that sooner or later you're going to get very, very good at this very quickly as well. So make sure you incorporate this into your routine. Okay, so let me just see. We have, Kenti to you, all of your fathers of great, right? Dua Netcher Dua Netcher Dua Min. I'm reading what son David is saying. Netcher Dua Min. The last soul is Wa. That's correct. Transposing the name as they are read. Dua Netcher. That's how it's supposed to be. For everyone, please explain why in the cartouche in front of the man is read from left to right, but all the other glyphs are read from right to left. Okay. Wait a minute. He says, explain read from left to right, but all the other glyphs are left. Okay. Let's see. Let me zoom back in. Okay, son David, I think you may have come in a little later because that was one of our first steps. Son Satep had explained the direction that we are to read these glyphs. So the glyphs in the cartouche here, or the shenu, are facing to the left. And we know that because we have the tethered rope is facing to the left. The quail chick is facing to the left. All the other glyphs are non-directional glyphs. So if those were there alone, we wouldn't know. But fortunately, we do know because we have two glyphs that are directional. So these are facing to the left, and we're going to read from left to right. You always read into the glyphs. So, and then over here, and likewise with these glyphs behind Mentuhotep, they're facing to the left. All the glyphs over here on the right-hand side are facing to the left. All right, so we would read all of these from left to right. But when you go over here, they're facing the other direction, and you can see the shift in the direction that the glyphs are facing. So we see the pintail duck facing to the right, the quail chick facing to the right. So that's a change in direction. The bee and the sedge plant facing to the right. All right. This hand right here is facing to the right. So this will be read from right to left. Hejet, Nachen, Awud, Aneb. These glyphs in front of Mentuhotep are facing to the left. The hand is facing to the left. The lasso starts at the left, so it's facing to the left. The reed leaf is facing to the left. The Netcher banner facing to the left. So you're going to read from left to right. And so that's about it. So hopefully that answers that. And let me make sure any other questions. Yes, Mentuhotep. To but normally the glyphs are usually read in the same direction as the man is facing. That's correct. That's what he's facing to the left. he's facing to the left, so the glyphs in front of him are facing to the left. The glyphs behind him are facing to the left. So everything about him is facing to the left. That's, near him, the figure. Okay, so hopefully that's clear.
Now that I'm looking at it, if you look right above the, I think that's a Shrek right there with his Haru name.
Yeah, I went over that.
Okay, I must have missed that. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm looking. I'm like, okay, that's a name right there.
Yeah, I went over the Sarek and the fact that above here, likely it would have been a falcon perched up here, and all of that good stuff. His Sarek name would be Simatawi, as well. We can see here, Simatawi.
There's a bar available that shows you where the directions change.
Who's that speaking?
Hotep Rennie, hush your mouth, aka Antoine Germain, ETM Hotep.
ETM Hotep.
But yeah, that bar shows you right where the directions change. So I mean, not that the bar's gonna always insinuate that, but in this case, that bar shows you where the directions change from when you're reading from left to right to left.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see if I could point that out. You said the bar. So say that one more time. Point out to me what bar you're saying.
I was just going off of both of the sinus, right? We can see both sinus, and one sinu is read left to right, the other sinu is read right to left. But there's a bar that falls in between those that lets you know that, okay, on this side, these items are facing the opposite direction. So I'm going to read in two in the opposite direction.
Okay, yeah. I just want to caution, we don't want to rely on the bars. If you're talking about these column separators here, just to make note, the columns, these bars that separate columns and the bars that separate rows, those are aesthetic devices. They're not a linguistic or grammatical device at all. So they were made and put there to keep order in the glyphs for aesthetic reasons. So this is why from column to another column, you'll have people may assume that where the end of one column and you start at the beginning, it may end a sentence or end a word, but that's not the case. A lot of times, a column may stop in the middle of a word, not even in the middle of a sentence, but the middle of a word where the word will pick up in another column, and so on, or even a row. So these dividers here were aesthetic devices for keeping order in with the glyphs and everything. So because if you think about it, why, if you took away these three dividers, you could still see the glyphs. And so why was that necessary? But so it was a custom of the scribes to make sure everything was ordered. They had to always keep divine order in writing and keep it neat.
Yeah, and if you look on the two columns, the two bottom columns with the hedgette, see that one will be you'll be read from a whole different direction from the other one next. So everything else in that divider will probably be facing left to right, but on this on a particular column, it will be actually right to left, and we see that with the So that will make sense that we can use the dividers in that sense, because they will still be mixed in there.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay. So we kind of ran along with this one. I did have a second image that you can see on the screen here. And obviously we won't have time to go over the whole thing. Let me make sure you all can see that. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole lot more than the first image, but I do want to point out a couple of things on here. So let me see if I can zoom in on this Stella. Now, so I want to point out a couple of things that along the lines of what we've been doing for the freestyle. So we can kind of freestyle with this as well. So we can quickly go through the 4 steps with this. So remember, step one is to determine the direction that we are to read. So anybody on the panel, if we can just identify the direction and why.
All right. Let's see. You want to go to the top?
Well, I'm just gonna leave it here. Just
Okay,
overall,
that's
you can
cool.
just
That's
say
cool. That's cool.
what direction.
So if we go, if you go to the second line on the right hand side, see, I'm looking at this, so I see a lot of stuff, and we all know this ain't visible. So as y'all looking at it in the YouTube, we looking at it right now, like, okay, I can't read a whole lot of this, but at the same time, I can see a whole lot of these birds in here, and I see that they facing right. So I'm gonna go to the first line, and then right there you got the owl. I know that's an owl. Like I said, this ain't visible to us as either. So, but yeah, I see an owl in the first line, and then okay, I see it a lot better. Now, if you go down to this, oh yeah, look a whole lot better now. Okay. All right, where your cursor at?
Can you see my cursor?
No, I can't see it. Start at the beginning where it say Emmy.
Okay, here.
All right, yeah. So I see that. I see that quail chick right there. And let's see. Okay, so you go down to the second line.
Hold up, can you see my cursor? Because I'm.
Oh no, I can't see your cursor.
Okay, I was kind of. Can anybody see my cursor?
I saw it before, but it was very faint.
Yeah, it's real faint.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why that is, but all right. So let me see if I could circle. Can you see that square?
Yeah, I see that, but I don't see what's in the square. But I see it's facing right, whatever it is.
Right. Okay. Good. All right. So as long as you can see that and you see this.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay.
That's another bird with the raised breadloaf. I see the seated person or deity.
All right. So that's enough, really, because all of these glyphs are facing to the right. So, like you said, you pointed out the fact that you can just glance at each row and see all of the birds. The birds and human figures are the first giveaway that you can use to determine the direction. So all of these birds throughout in all the rows, they're facing to the right, which means what direction should we read it in?
Right to left.
All right, so hopefully that's clear. So now this one is not in columns. This is in rows. So remember, the scribes wrote in either columns or rows. They didn't write in circles. They didn't write in triangles and all kinds of other things. They wrote in columns and rows, and they either wrote from or carved from right to left or left to right.
Okay, let me say something real quick. It's blurry in the chat that we in, but it's clear on the YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I can't see it in here, but when I go to the YouTube, I can see a little bit of it. It's a lot clearer.
Okay. I don't know how to.
That's why I said, I was like, man, I can't see none of that.
You said, I want to make sure that this is clear too. You said columns and rows, no universal geometry, circles or triangles or pentagons.
No. The scribes made sure that they kept the glyphs in what they call quadrats, and they did it in columns or rows. All right, columns or rows. And so with columns and rows, that's when people say 4 directions. The 2 of those 4 directions is to determine if it's in columns or rows, and that's very easy. Either they're vertical or horizontal. If it's horizontal, then it's rows. If it's vertical, it's columns. And then the other 2 out of the 4 would be, is it left to right or right to left? And that's it. It's very, very simple to do. So that would be step 1 for this particular inscription. So it's read from right to left, and these are in rows. So now step 2 will be to identify some of the glyphs, all of them actually, if you were to sit here and to do it. But for time's sake, we're not going to do that. We just identify a couple of them. And since it's blurry on the screen, I'll just identify a few of them. Now, this is outside of the monoliterals. As I said, we just avoid identifying those because we should already have those committed to memory. Okay, So what we have the two planks here at the top right. If you hopefully y'all can see my cursor, and that represents the word M, biliteral, two consonants, I and M. It'd be transliterated as an I and an M. Let's see what else that we can identify with. We have the Sonnet game board as a biliteral, represents the two consonants M and N as in Nancy. Skipping down, let's just go down some more. There's a lot of monoliterals going on in here. Okay, we have a common glyph that you may recognize, which is a floor plan of an enclosure, which represents, it's a biliteral, represents two consonants, or the two consonants P and R, pair. And we have a lot of determinatives. We have a lot of person determinatives. We have, you see the seated person. Seated person is pretty much everywhere. In a lot of rows, here. And those are usually indication of some kind of determinative. So that would be step 2. We will identify more of them. We have the hare rabbit here. We have the hare rabbit here. It's very small, so I'm not sure if y'all can see that. We have the pair here again, and so on. We have the hotep. This is either the hotep glyph or the papyrus roll, the tied papyrus roll. And sometimes it may be difficult to make out which of the two those are, but when you incorporate the other glyphs around it, you can pretty much figure out the word that it's part of. All right. Okay, so, but now what I wanted to point out, now this in step 3, you would recognize different words. So I'm just going to kind of jump to what I wanted to point out. This is based on a conversation online on Facebook that I had made a post, and I was speaking about the word comedics. Like, we see that word being used a lot, and it's mainly used by people of the Hebrew or Jewish or Israeli or Israelite faith, Abrahamic faith, to refer to anyone who deals with Kemet or ancient Egypt. And so we see the word comedics, speaking about people, like the comedics, So I did a post just to kind of bring it to our attention that the word, the fact that, I understand how it's being used. It's being used to identify, those people who deal with Kemet. But even in ancient times, what I pointed out is that the people of ancient Kemet, they refer to themselves by two main names. It's more than two, but two main words. And one of them is Remech, which means the emanations of Ra, but altogether would be the people. So the people refer to themselves as Remech. And then that would be their cosmogonical designation or cosmological designation. And the reason why is because in the creation stories or in the cosmogonical text, you see where Ra, where human beings come from the emanations of Ra, the tears of Ra. And so the word Remech is a play on the word to cry or to tear up. So we have the word Remi, which means to cry, and then we have the word Remech, which means the people that come from that crying or those tears, the emanations of Ra. Okay, so we have Remech. That would be the cosmogonical designation. Then we have a political designation or nationality. And because the country and the kingdom was called Kemet, then the people refer to themselves as Kemetiu, which means those from Kemet or those of Kemet. It's like today we would call ourselves American. We don't say we are America. We say we're American, and we put the N on our word to show relationship to the country, that we are a member of this country. So we would say I am American. And so they back then would say I am Kemetiu, or to show the group as a plural. Cometiyu, the Cometiyu. Like we would say the Americans. We would say the Cometiyu. All right, so that was a more political designation for that. And so I posted up just to kind of, raise awareness about that. But someone came on the post and had said that I was incorrect, and that Kemet is a philosophical term, and that Remich was not used. So, and I'm going through this now because this is an example of what we should be able to do, and what we should do at all times, is that demonstration beats conversation. We have to demonstrate support for the things that we say, and everyone should follow suit and support whatever they say. And so I gave the brother or the person this as a primary source, as a primary resource for them to check out and see that the word remich is indeed used for the people. And so here on this line here, if you scan through it, if anyone knows what the word remich looks like, which goes back to our step 3, pattern recognition, then you can pretty much scan line for line. You can look through here, line for line, and maybe we'll go over this. We'll go over this maybe on a Divine Words Wednesday, where we can actually go through it line by line. I'm
gonna say, like if I'm looking for remich, I would look for that TCH, that rope.
Okay, right. So now I don't know how clear if this is blurry, then it would be hard for anyone on the panel to do that. But let me just scroll down where it is, and I won't point out where it is, and we could count the rows from the bottom up. So if this is row 1, now I'm only numbering it this way just for the sake of identifying the row. So if this is row 1 from the bottom, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, etc., 6 and 7. So we have 7 rows within this picture frame right now. So if anybody in the chat or anybody on the panel, if you can tell me which row do you see the word remich? And I'll give some time, but I don't like that dead that dead space. So I'm gonna talk, but that's what I'm asking for is that which row, based on what you see, do we find the word remich? And I'm gonna look at the chat, and anybody on the panel can point it out. It sounds like somebody may already have it.
Now I was just gonna say that I'll probably have to wait for the screen on YouTube so we can see it a little bit better. So it'll take some time.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah, check it on YouTube. Let me unmute this little bit of background music here. So we're gonna, instead of the background, we're gonna have the Jeopardy music. But so I'm gonna give some time so for it to catch up on YouTube.
I think I saw it. I saw it on the 3rd row from the bottom.
The 3rd row from the bottom. So we count 1, and then 2, and then 3.
I don't see your cursor, but yeah, it's 3rd from the bottom.
Okay.
Yes, and then it will be somewhere in the middle, and it starts with the mouth.
Okay.
And then you have the tethering rope, and then you have the seated man and seated woman, and then you have 3 strokes at the bottom.
Okay, so let me put a square around it, and there you have it. That is correct. Iker, excellent. So you beat everybody to the punch, and I'm sure that some people would have probably figured it out. Son David figured it out. Son June figured it out. Okay. So, and that is correct. That is the word remich right there. Okay, so this is an example. So I offered this as evidence to support my claim. And this is what we have to start doing and start demanding of others. Because there's a lot of people that are claiming things about Kemet, but they're doing it without showing or demonstrating any support whatsoever. And not to say that it's intentional, but we run the risk of repeating bad information when we ourselves don't check it out. And before we start to teach and share information, we should check it out. As carpenters always say, measure twice, cut once. Okay, which means double check before you cut, because once you cut it, you can't put it back. Once you cut someone's hair, as a barber, you're cutting someone's hair, You make a mistake, you can't put it back on. You're not gonna glue the hair back on. So you want to make sure you get it right the first time. All right, so we have to start being like this with this information. And so I offered this to show the person, and hopefully they will look into it and understand that they were incorrect. But I want to show this particular is the word. Now it's also somewhere else. So MK, you found it, but now it's somewhere else as well. So let's see if anybody can find the second time it's mentioned. All right. So how about that? So we got, son David, son June is in the chat. Let's see if anybody can figure out where it is a second time. And I'm gonna leave it right here. I'm gonna take away my box that I made, but I'm gonna leave the picture right where it is. Let's see if anybody can figure that out. Oh, okay. While we're waiting, son David he clarified his question. He was saying that the left side of the cartouche or the Shinu glyphs are the only ones facing to the left, while the other glyphs are facing to the right. Is there a reason for this? Yeah, there's a change in direction, and so based on what we could see in that picture, that was only a crop. That was only a portion of a larger inscription. So we can only go by what we could see. And there's obviously pieces missing. There's more inscription to the left of it and more inscription to the right, etc. And I'm sure that there was another deity standing there that was doing the talking. Just like as we see to the far right, you saw the deity or a figure that was there on the far right. And it was the one that was talking, because it said Sama ini inek tawi, which is I unify for you the two lands. So the one who was doing it was obviously the figure that was to the right. We could speculate and say that was Het Heru, and likely it probably was or is. Okay, so Satep, I think Satep got it first. He says the second line from the bottom, and that is correct. So I'm just gonna go ahead and point this out. It is right here. And it's actually the same set of words. So we have the hair rabbit, the water ripple, the open mouth, the tethering rope, the seated man, seated woman, the plural strokes. Over here, the same thing. The hair, above here, we have the same thing. The hair rabbit, water ripple, the open mouth, tethering rope, seated man, seated woman, plural strokes. So we have just to kind of let you all know what this is saying there. And let me actually mute this. It's a bit loud there. So what this is basically saying is in that particular portion, we have the word. Let's see where we at. Y'all can hopefully see. You all saying you can't see my cursor, but hopefully I'll square it off. And
I think it's clear on YouTube though. You can see the cursor on YouTube.
Yeah, I found it looking at the the reed leaf and the quail chick. That's how I found it, and then I seen the determinative behind it.
Okay, so this portion that I've blocked off, you can see the rectangle that I made, right?
Not yet. Not on YouTube yet.
Okay, so it's gonna be a little delay. It should pop up on YouTube. So it should be there. Can you all see it now?
Two.
Dotted line. Okay.
Yeah, it just popped up.
Okay, so now that portion, it starts off with a reed leaf and a quail chick, and then you have the hair rabbit and then the water ripple, and that is a two-word. Well, that's two words that says you win. And then you have the word remech, and then net, it-e, and then menchu hotep. So that's what is there. And basically what that is saying is it's saying the people of the house. Actually, if you keep going, let me see if I if we were to keep going where this rectangle is, and I'm going to keep going, it also mentions mesu, and then ni per. It goes into the next row. Mesu ni per. And so what all of that is saying is that the phrase you win is like saying there is, or there are. If it's plural, we say there are. If it's singular, we say there is. So you win is like saying there is. And so there is or there are, then we have, because it's saying there exist or there are. And we have remich, people, net, of it, the father of Mentuhotep. And then we have children. We have the word mesu, children. And then we have of the house. So altogether, what that is saying is that the people of, and it's iti, my father, is saying the people of, and even though the word house comes afterwards, but we in to make it make sense in English, as we were talking about before, when we go through step 4, we would say the people of the house of my father, Mentuhotep, and the children. So we get to say the people and the children of the house of my father, Mentuhotep. And that's what that is saying in that portion. So like I said, maybe on Divine Words Wednesday, we can walk through all of this so it will flow and it will make perfect sense. But I wanted to jump down here because I just wanted to show it as an example of this is what we should require from other people and have the ability to do ourselves, is that when we make these claims, we're making them with a sound basis, a firm basis, a base in fact. Okay, and we should be able to demonstrate it if it at all possible. Because sometimes, we're not able to have clear pictures or whatnot, but we can at least give people references to where they can see these kinds of things. So that's an instance where you see remich. And then, so that was correct, Satep. That down here, we have the same thing. And notice that we have the same thing. We have you win remich. So there are people. Okay, you can see the same thing.
I also noted on the bottom that on the first row from the bottom, we have heretic or what we call Sesh Medew Netcher glyph. On a carving, because usually I think we see that one with the quill chick that is used on a carving, but I think this is the first time I've seen this particular one, which is the jazz stand, on a carving as well.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting.
How many glyphs over from the right? So I can point it out.
It's the 8th glyph from the right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so here we are.
Right.
Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that and follow with that. All right, so hopefully that's clear. Don't want to go in too far with it. All right. Now this particular word, that's a good thing you point out. But this particular word here is all of that, and it's the word G. It will be G, B, A, and then we have the determinative here, and then we have a first person personal pronoun, goodbye. All right, so that's it. That's pretty much it, and what I had to share. And I don't want to go too much longer, so let's just kind of tune into the chat and see what's going on in the chat. So hopefully everyone followed along and we didn't lose anyone in our freestyle, but again, we encourage anyone who's studying the language to incorporate freestyling into your routine. Try to get with like-minded people, some other students, fellow students that are studying the language as well, And you can always join in with us. All right, we're gonna try to keep this up every Friday, at 9 p.m. or somewhere around 9 p.m. And we also have Divine Words Wednesdays. All right. So, but remember this: the glyphs are to be read as if you're having a conversation with the glyphs. You cannot pick and choose which way you read the glyphs based on your own choice. Based on, okay, I woke up on the right side of my bed today, so I'm going to read them from the right. No, it doesn't work that way. Don't allow anyone else to tell you that either, because that would be the equivalent of taking a paragraph in English and then just arbitrarily deciding to read it from the opposite end, and you're going to get lost. It's not going to make sense to you at all. And the only people that will do that are people who are actually not reading it. They're actually using the glyphs or seeing the glyphs only as symbols, and they're trying to translate the symbols themselves, as opposed to understanding that we're actually looking at a writing system that visually represents speech. Okay, so remember that. And so that's it. And hopefully everyone understood the information about the Remich. The Remich is the indigenous name that the ancient Egyptians referred to themselves. So you'll hear us say Remich, and we'll keep saying it until it spreads a little more to where we don't even have to say ancient Egyptians anymore. Likewise with Hieroglyphic, we say Sesh Medew Netcher, and that's pretty much caught on a lot. And I find myself not even saying Hieroglyphic nearly as much as I used to, because more and more people understand what you mean when you say that. But we got to understand Remich. We got to understand Rani Kemet is the indigenous name of the spoken language. Rani Kemet, and the writing script is Sesh Medew Netcher. So we have Remich, Rani Kemet, Sesh Medew Netcher. We don't say Kemetic. We say Kemeti, which would be a proper way of saying something that's related to Kemet. Kemeti, plural Kemetiyu or Kemetiyu. We don't say Egypt. We say Ni Kemet, or Egyptian, I should say. We don't say Egyptian. We say Ni Kemet, belonging to Kemet. So if this is an Egyptian ring, I would say Ni Kemet ring. Okay. What else? Yeah, and we don't say Egypt. We say Kemet. And so we want to kind of push the use of those words so we can kind of swap it out. We don't have to go back to those words anymore. But if somebody used Egypt and Egyptians and all that stuff, we know what people mean, and we don't have to make a big fuss about it. But we should always be in a mood to educate everyone. So that's all I have. Anybody on the panel have any comments or closing words? And I know we're gonna definitely close out with Son of Emicat, but anybody else? Nope. Okay, so let me go back to here. Let me make mention of a few things. Anyone who's interested in learning the language on a beginner's level, you can go to this website, Seba University. That's where you'll find the study course, a beginner's course, and the course is only $100. And it's 12 weeks long. So in 12 weeks, you will know how to transliterate and translate basic inscriptions. All right. There's a textbook that goes along with the course that is a requirement, and that is the bottom book that you see here, A Beginner's Introduction to Medew Netcher. That is the textbook that complements the study course. And so basically, the study course is a walk through from cover to cover the textbook. All right. And general information, we have our website, which is the home of the Seshu Medew Netcher, is seshmedwnetcher.com. And on the website, we have various different information about Kemet. We have resources. We have things you could download. We have what we call Permajat, which is the digital library. We have transliterations, translations done by students who have taken the courses, as well as some of the things that we've gone over in the past on Freestyle Friday or Divine Words Wednesday. We'll put them on the website so people can make reference to them and share them out on social media. All right, so make sure you visit, sign up. Registration to the website is free. We also have a premium membership that allows you access to our digital library, where we have a lot of resources that you can get: dictionaries, sign list, different books on different topics and things like that. All right. So remember that. And all right, so now I'm done. So Emiket, if you're still there, I guess no one else, you can close us out.
All right. Yes. Dua for for those who will be Dua, and for participating with us on our Freestyle Fridays and this Freestyle Friday, and hope to see you again on Wednesday for our Divine Words Wednesday. So with that, I'd just like to say, get an affair. That's good night. Back an affair. Good morning, depending on what time zone you're on. And Shemi Montef, go in peace.